I'm holding myself accountable. I have to be able to look in the mirror and definitely say, okay, Brandey, what did you do to contribute to this? And what could you do to make the situation much better?
Produced by Podcast Architects.
Welcome back to another episode of The Path Forward. As always, I'm your host, Dr. Rick Fernandez, and I have a very special guest with me today, someone that's going to help me blend a little of the public and the private, if you will. Brandey McDonald from Fengate, project director and P3 award winner as of last week. Sorry, you know how to get that in there. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Rick. Thanks so much. So happy to be here with you.
I got to ask, before we even dive in, who was the first person you called or text when you won the award?
In all actuality, it was my significant other, and he was asleep.
Way to hang in there. Wait for the big announcement.
Thanks for the support.
So tell me, he didn't get it to the following morning?
He didn't get it to the following morning. After him, I text my mom and my co-sister. I text them. They got it, but I didn't know that they got it. And so when my niece lives in New York, and she came to visit me, and she was like, "No, Auntie, they got it." And then I checked my phone, and of course my family's like, "Yay!" Whatever. But yeah. He was asleep. Yeah, the special person was asleep. So. Well,
see, in his defense, he was like, she's got this. Let me just go on and plan for the after party stuff, the welcome back and all that. That's what he was doing. I'm gonna defend him. Don't even know him, but I'm just gonna defend him. That's what I would do.
I'll make sure I let him know that.
Well, we've had a chance to collaborate on some things more recently with Prince George County, but I want to learn a little bit more about you because I really haven't asked, like, where are you from? How did you even get into this? So just give us a little bit about your history.
Oh, yeah. So where I'm from, I'm originally from a little town. It's not a rural town, but, small town America. I'm from a little town called Warren, Ohio. It's about 45 minutes east of Cleveland. So it's not even the Cleveland Metropolitan Statistical Area. It's actually the Youngstown, the city of Youngstown Metropolitan Statistical Area. So small town America, once again. Came from parents, who've been married happily for 55 years and have a brother and, again, a cousin that was raised with me. And I'm actually the middle child. So, went to the University of Cincinnati undergrad. And, shockingly to many people, I started out in architectural engineering and really was not strong enough at that time. Did not have the strong personality that I have right now to stand up to that mean
you can say it.
Professor that I had. I haven't forgot his name, but I wish I could find him to this day. If anybody knows who that was, let me know. But I definitely dropped out of architectural engineering and moved over into criminal justice because I watched LA Law so much and thought that I was going to go. I'm so serious. Back then, LA Law was really popular. And I wanted to become a judge, actually like a federal judge, get up to the federal judge level. But when I came out of college, did a career assessment test, I was preparing for law school, was working for a law transcription firm, and they were doing, career assessments, and they had a career assessment done on me, and the guy looked at me and said, "Are you crazy? Like, you don't need to go. You should really be in finance, sales, and entrepreneurship, all this different stuff." So anyway, wound up, moving into banking, eventually wound up into municipal investment banking. And became also a commercial real estate lender. So I spent the bulk of my career at the beginning in finance and commercial real estate finance, to tell you the truth, and moved into the construction career with the help of Clark Construction back in 2009. I was approached as a woman of color and, one who had strong business acumen to start my own contracting firm. And so I started an elevator firm by the name of Grecon Elevator and had that for 7 years prior to moving into construction management. So I've touched every bit, it seems like, of commercial real estate, which is really fun. I'm a bit of a unicorn in this market, but that's the way it came. And how I got into P3s, man, oh man. I will tell you that there was a recruiter that approached me. I was actually with a firm, a wonderful firm by the name of MGAC. Shout out to Mark G. Anderson and consultants. That was a fabulous, an amazing boutique construction management firm here in DC. I was sitting over at DC government, specializing in schools, to tell you the truth, and staff augmentation with the DC government crew. Shout out to my former DC government colleagues there. And I guess I posted a lot on LinkedIn, and somebody saw me. And there was a recruiter that reached out and asked if I wanted to take a look at this position. I knew about the project because I was one on my team who looked at solicitations and worked on proposals. And so I was very familiar. And with the help of, some of those that I look up to in this industry, they convinced me to apply for the position. And Andrea McLean, who is my boss at Fengate, she'll laugh, but I kept seeing somebody from Fengate stalking my LinkedIn profile. And I asked the recruiter, who did you tell, like who's looking at my profile from, from Fengate? And he told me, he says, probably, Andrew McLean, the hiring manager. And when I met her and, and Steve Rutledge and Egidio Mosca, I fell right in love with them and the team. And so I've been here ever since.
Well, so if we could back up, because I'm very curious to know, being a former educator and working with kids, as you're going through some of these transitions, how did you break the news to your parents anytime you wanted to make a change, and kind of what was their push or pull, if you will, in support?
So I will tell you, my parents are traditional. They are very, obviously, they've been married for 55 years, right? In this small town America. They are traditionalists, and over time they've become a little bit more loose, in regards to that. But they were, individuals who worked in their jobs for 30 years. My mother was a manager. She was in the office, at General Motors, or she sold Delphi Automotive Systems, which was a conglomerate of General Motors. And my father was a UPS truck driver for 30 years. Literally, yeah, I mean, 30 in the field for 30 years, 30 something years. And so for them, whenever I would make a transition, they'd be like, oh, this is, but I would say, oh, I'm elevating myself, hold on, as, most do now, we elevate ourselves, when we make transitions. And so they got to they came to the point where they understood, and now they truly understand. But back then I could tell you, and especially when I came out of college, they were like, you need to find a career and a job and stick to it and be there for 30 years. And I was like, I don't think that's right. I don't think that's
No, I mean, and nail on the head is with now, if you look at the job trends, people are changing 4 or 5 times, within
yeah.
a 10-year span.
Oh
It's kind
yeah.
of the way of the workforce now, is that it's
Yeah.
not, it used to be frowned upon. I used to get the same advice, like you need to stick at least 3, 4, 5 years and
Mhm.
set some roots. And then I was like, what if you don't like it? Or what if they don't like you? you know, what do you, what do you do? You both just eke it out? Like that doesn't sound right to me either. So,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
the millennial generation and really a lot of COVID forced folks to kind of get outside that lane and start looking around. All
Mhm.
right, well, if there's opportunity, I'm going to take a look at it. And
Absolutely.
I think it's a
Absolutely.
great story though. But I like my parents are very much the same. Anytime I've done something, like when I changed from an education to the private sector, I get that kind of the eye raise, like, we know you're hard headed, so we're not really going to say anything at this moment about it, but you just see like all of the, are you sure? What are you talking about? Why are you doing this? Um, but so why Fengate? Like, is it more fit? Is it the people that you work with? Like, how do you go? It seems like you have plenty of opportunities. How do you know where to go, and why do you stay?
So Fengate is amazing, and I think, your counterparts, Rick, that know Fengate oh so well, like Tom Ness and those guys, they would tell you all day, every day, even in their previous lives prior to Answer, they've worked with Fengate, on various projects. And, Fengate is just an amazing firm. The ownership and the leadership at Fengate really does care about its employees or their employees. The employees come first, and that's really important to Lou Serafini and and George and Marty and so many others that are there in leadership positions. at Fengate, just the fact that they really, really do care about their employees. They want to make sure that, we know if we have a plan, for where we want to go, that they're able to fit, or we're able to fit within that plan at Fengate. And so really it's just a great company. And it's not just the fact of the employees. It's a reputable company that has been around for 40 plus years. In addition to that, they're one of the top, developers and equity providers in North America, as far as P3s are concerned. So you couldn't be with a better company. Oftentimes, when I walk into rooms, at various, whether events or conferences or whatever else. And I will tell you, my very first P3 conference, when I got to the conference, there were many people. They didn't know who I was. I didn't know who people were. Obviously I'm a little bit nervous. I'm going to be on these panels, and I'm like, okay, I just walked into this space. I have no idea what I'm talking about here. I know public sector, but I don't know P3. But the one thing that made me feel really comfortable was when I did show up at these conferences and people looked at my name tag. And the first thing that they saw was Fengate Asset Management. And everybody, I mean, everybody was like, you work for Fengate? Where do you live? You're in the US? Like, what's going on? And you're not from Canada? And I was like, no, actually live in DC, And so, it's just a great firm to be with. It really is.
Well, that's awesome. Yeah, I've definitely heard of the name and being in the space a little while, but getting to meet you and learn from you has been you're nail on the head. I mean, what a great firm, and it's my pleasure to work with you and then learn your side of these P3 interactions because they're pretty complex and it's not something that is easily maneuvered, and just the expertise having in the room to assist the educators, because that's obviously my heart is always with them trying to figure out how do we deliver stuff for students, right? For students in the community. As you're going through these transitions, is there one mentor that you can point to? Because I truly believe that all students needed a mentor, somebody to help them with that career path. Is there somebody that you point to is like, that's my kind of my guide, my rock when something is getting tough?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I have an amazing mentor. I will tell you. My mentor is Carl Mayfield, who is senior, or actually executive vice president for construction with Park Hotels, which is a REIT, a minority run REIT, hospitality REIT. He used to be senior vice president for RLJ Hotels, which is Bob Johnson, who he formerly used to own BET's company, or his REIT that he started. Carl is amazing. I know Carl. I met Carl originally, through the commercial real estate industry when I was president of African American Real Estate Professionals. I asked him to serve on my advisory board, but Carl also too. We go to church together, and so he knows me. I know him and his wife. He is an amazing individual. He challenges me in ways that I have not been challenged before. And I will tell you, Rick, I didn't have a mentor, like a true mentor. I've always had cheerleaders, a lot of cheerleaders. We know that there's a big difference. I've always had a lot of cheerleaders that stood behind me and always rooted me on with their pom poms. But I didn't actually ask someone to be my mentor until like 2018. And I reached out to Carl and said, hey, I'm starting to have this really great career in construction management. I really want to work with someone whose job I want. That's what,
I
like
like
that.
that.
Yeah. And so that was how I selected him. And when I reached out to him and asked him, what, Carl, would you please be my mentor? He certainly said yes. He said, I would love to be your mentor. And I thought it was so sweet the way that he responded, to that. And so he has been so incredibly helpful for many of us that are here in the DC area and just nationally, especially those who are in the hospitality sector. They are very familiar with Carl and his work and the respect that he has in the industry. But I will tell you that there are others that have been, instrumental along the way, throughout my careers. He'd be very shocked to hear this, but Michael Carter, who sits over at McKissick and McKissick, love Michael to death. Michael was very instrumental, I will tell you, in me becoming a better construction manager. While, obviously I could do the job, right? I walked in, was able to do the job and did it well. But when I started to work under him, he was just an incredible leader who really, really did challenge those, that were working under him to be the best construction managers that we could be, to bother people, to constantly, touch people and say, hey, what's going on? And why is that happening? And why has it not been resolved? And whatever else. And he'll laugh when he hears this, but it's definitely, he's been very instrumental. I will tell you that.
So I want to get off script for 1 second because you brought up something very key.
Mhm.
Can you point to one of the challenges from your mentor? Because I think you bring up a great point that sometimes we confuse what our support and cheerleaders are versus somebody that makes us better, right? Is there something you can put like an instance where you can say was a challenging moment that made me better?
You know, my mentor is very good with helping me work through, when when you see difficult times, like for
Hmm.
instance, difficult relationships. What he does for me is if I'm having a difficult time with someone, like I'll talk to him, I'll talk through with him perhaps what's going on my projects. And he oftentimes helps me to realize and have me take accountability for things. And oftentimes he will say to me, is it really them or is it you? And I'm like, well, wait a minute. Are we like in therapy? Like, wait a minute. This is wait a minute. No, it's not me. It's them.
I called you because it's them.
But he is really great in that manner because he really does hold and make sure that I hold that I'm holding myself accountable. I have to be able to look in the mirror and definitely say, in the mirror, like, okay, Brandey, what did you do to contribute to this? And what could you do to make the situation much better? So that has been, challenging, in that regard. When I made the change to Fengate, he actually challenged me on the different companies and what were the benefits, obviously the pros and the cons to moving to Fengate versus actually staying and remaining with MGAC, where I had such a great career with that firm and knew that I was moving up the ladder at MGAC and earning a lot of respect there. And so he definitely challenges in many ways, in ways that sometimes are not the most comfortable, but that's what a real
Right.
mentor is for.
That's
Mhm.
where the growth comes from, right? All
Mhm.
the discomfort.
Mhm.
I was marveling as we were visiting the school district a couple of weeks ago how
Mhm.
you're able to take something that's very, very complex and break it down and share it with folks that are obviously just learning about it, right? Novices. What's your formula for doing that? How do you know? How do you do that? Is there something that you look to or a recipe that you say, all right, I know this is going to be a complex problem, but I got to make sure the end users are going to understand what this looks like.
I think it's important to be one who's actually experienced it, who's worked with jurisdictions. Having been staff augmentation with DC government, with the Department of General Services, it allows me to see what the client really needs and what's problematic for the client, and really being able to speak to them from that particular side, having sat there. And so oftentimes, and I call it breaking it down into layman terms, more so than anything else. So, and not necessarily not dumbing it down or anything like that, but it's very important to be able to speak to those who are clients, who are potential clients, and those who will or who could benefit from this particular delivery method, and utilize basically the language that they would typically, utilize as CIP individuals who are, within the CIP realm, and those who are making decisions from the construction management and also too from the facilities perspective. It's just very important to have that experience there. And that's what I do. I bring my experience that I've had sitting there, having delivered, been a part of not only just stabilization in smaller projects, just like the HVACs and the elevator modernizations and the smaller projects that are there that are needed in schools, but then also too, being able to speak to one who has actually delivered and, done large, 100+ million, dollar school, and modernize that, and the pains that one goes through, as a
Yes.
decision maker while actually trying to get that off the ground, get the budget in place, ask for more money, deal with the residents that are actually there, that they want to see different things in the school, telling the residents no when you're not really supposed to tell them no, just whatever it may be. You have to have that experience there in order to make those individuals feel very comfortable.
What would you say is the most stressful part? Like if you reflect back on this first delivery for Prince George County, there's a lot of money on the line. There's a lot of people that you know have an investment on one side. There's a lot of timelines for a school district and the needs of the students. Many things could go wrong, right? What's the most stressful part, and how do you kind of manage it?
Oh man, there's so many stressful parts. I will tell you, delivering a P3. I'll speak to two things. One, the most stressful part of this project was dealing with the politics. That that was incredibly stressful, especially when you have new politicians who come into play, and have not, seen a project of this caliber. We had some naysayers, and and of course that it was my job, along with our lobbyists, to sit and have those conversations with those politicians to assure them that this is the right step for Prince George's County in order to make things happen for their residents and to basically keep up with the growth, there for these residents and their children. And then also too, I will tell you the transition process. Oh my gosh, like that.
That's all right. That's all right. We're all friends here.
And I will tell you, Sean laughed at me, Sean Matlock of PGCPS. He picks on me because the day that we turned over on, I think it was July 15th, I work from home, because obviously, Fengate is in Canada and I'm here in the DC area, but that day I literally jumped out of my seat and, got in my car and like showed up, on the project site, like what is going on? And this was, like, or I should say on the day that we turned over, I was there, but there was another day throughout the transition process is what I'm speaking of, when I literally had to jump in my car. And this is when we were turning over keys and, to the administrative staff. And it didn't, it wasn't, it wasn't the most pleasant experience, I will tell you that. But the team got it together and we did what was absolutely necessary. And I'm hearing, from my colleagues, at Fengate, who actually work on these projects all day, every day, and have seen numerous. One of our VPs, Egidio Mosca, has been, he's seen 10 of these, 10 different transitions of
That's
these
crazy.
projects. Yeah. So he can speak to this, all day, every day. And he was like, Brandey, it's nothing new. It's nothing new. It always is stuff like this. And of course, me being the perfectionist that I am, I'm like, oh my God, like what's going on? Like, what guys, why don't we have the keys ready? And what happened? And, and I'm drilling everybody and I'm standing out in the parking lot of Adelphi Middle School, pretty much like seething, like, like,
Which one of y'all am I going to strangle first to get these doors open?
I'm out looking for people in my car, like, just, so anyway, the transition process was, definitely challenging, a little challenging. But, of course, it's a learning lesson for all. This is my first transition with, a P3. This was PGCPS's first transition with a P3. So obviously getting everybody on board, even in the individual schools, and you've got, people who are, the superintendents who are actually there on the ground, who are on the cleaning staff and think they want to do their thing. And we're all like, no, 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 don't touch anything. You're gonna, void a warranty or just whatever else. So that was definitely one of the other difficulties about the project.
What are you most proud of about the project?
Oh man, seeing the students and the administrators smile.
Just give some specifics. Like what was it that when you saw it all kind of come together?
Oh man, I will tell you, Adelphi to me, which was one of the schools, and it's in a location where the Latino population is, and they did not have a middle school to service that population or to serve that population. The day, and while I was so incredibly proud of all of the schools, the day of that ribbon cutting, I had tears in my eyes on that day because it was just so special to see these children who are probably first generation Americans who are getting their own individual school in their community. And it is a school that speaks to their community. So it's not just, there's not signage that is just in the English language, but there is actually signage that's in Spanish in that school. And to me, it was so wonderful because throughout the ribbon cutting, obviously there was translation, that was happening, throughout the entire ceremony. And just those that came from whether the Board of Education that were from the Latino culture, and also to those from council, the things that they said to those children were so amazing. And so for me, that was like a really proud moment. Prince George's County is already diverse. It's a diversely run county, and with primarily African Americans that are there. But to actually see, another culture be such an important part of that jurisdiction, and to see that culture truly celebrated, that to me, that was a tearjerker. So that
It
really,
makes all the pain worth it, doesn't it?
oh, it
That the,
does. It does. And those kids, and I'll tell you, there's a young lady, and she's not really, she's younger than me, much younger than me, but she's a teacher at Walker Mill. And I'll tell you that Walker Mill was our last ribbon cutting, and I didn't know Maya was a teacher at Walker Mill. I knew she was a teacher, but I didn't know she was there. And when I walked in and I was talking to, some of our colleagues, and just sharing some things, I heard somebody, yell out Brandey. And she jumped down from the stands. She was sitting among her students, and she jumped down from the stands and she ran up and she hugged me and she said, I had no idea that this was your project. And she said, I'm a teacher here. And again, I know her from church. And so that to me, I was like, oh, and we've got this great picture of us, this great selfie of her and I, on the day of the ribbon cutting at Walker Mill. So that was very special as
I
well.
love it. I love it. I'm glad you could be there for that and see, see the kids and their joy and the teachers. That makes all the pain of any decision that has to go with schools
Yeah.
well worth it.
Hmm.
So obviously you're very successful. And this is just another testament to that, delivering this project that's really one of a kind. What's our responsibility? What's your responsibility? What's my responsibility to reach back and help mentor the next generation?
Oh man, it's um it is up to us to make sure that there are others who come up and that we reach down and we pull up others so they can do the same. I am one who totally believes in mentorship. I have a couple of mentees myself. I just had somebody ask me to be a mentor just the other day on Thursday night, and I was sitting there. She's gonna laugh when she sees this, but I was pretty much almost in tears, and I'm like, okay, we got to go get an award here, just like, but I think that it is so important that we reach down, we tell, that we help others who really want to do this. I will tell you, as one who's a project director and oftentimes has multiple teams, that are reporting up to us. The one thing that I do is I always make sure that those kids that are actually on these projects, when I walk in, that they know who I am, that I speak to them, and they know that I know their name, because I know that someday they're going to be in my shoes. And that's very important. I will never be a project director, or anything else above a project director that won't know those individuals that are serving on my team. I want to make sure that they're appreciated every day, because again, I want to see them stand up to this level. And I want them to say at some point, you know what, because I saw her and I thought that she was great and she knew who I was and she knew what I did and she challenged me even when I did, when I didn't think I needed to be challenged, that I actually want to have that type of role one day. And so I think it's very important that we remain the best people that we could possibly be. So those who actually are coming up and who wish to be in our shoes at some point definitely do continue to, actually make those moves in order to make that necessary.
I love it. That leads me right into to my next question. So as you're getting a new mentee during the awards, all right, take me through the awards night.
Okay.
Obviously, we got to the part after you won, and nobody knew at the house, but that's another story. But so just to take me through it briefly. Like, get there, who you sitting with, what are y'all doing, what are you talking about? Are you nervous?
Oh man, my colleague Carl Schaefer was sitting next to me. He was on the LAX Conrack project out in LA. And Carl said, Brandey, this was earlier in the night. And he said, are you nervous? And I said, no, I'm not nervous. I wasn't nervous. This was early. I want you to know, we're sitting at the table and we're all laughing. We're having a good time. And as they had the Woman of the Year first, which my colleague Valerie Blanche won. But it seemed like after they announced that and after Valerie got her award, then all of a sudden I started sweating bullets. I will not tell a lie. I was sitting at the table and I was like, man, and they started running through those who I was up against with this award. And I was like, wow, those are some really heavy hitters. These are some people. And I said, I didn't win. And I just thought to myself, like something came over me that said I didn't win, and it's okay even if I didn't win. And to tell you the truth, when they called my name, it was almost like a blackout moment. Like, almost, how you
It
see
took a
the
minute to
women.
register, like.
Right, it did. You see, how you see the women on the Miss America pageant, and they're like, oh, and I was kind of like, I didn't do that, but I got my foot stuck on the leg, underneath the table when I got up. So, it was really funny. So, I'm like trying to like trip, not fall in a gown. And Carl's trying to help me. By the way, partnership moves, and please don't put that table back there in the corner by the left right up against the railing again. We had to move the table all night. Like Jensen's pulling the table forward towards him as I'm getting up, and we're pulling it towards us as he's getting up. So anyway, it was a great night, to win and to see so many of my colleagues, that are there in the room, those that I've worked with, those that I've met along the way, those that I work with on various committees, with the Association for the Improvement of American Infrastructure, whether it's the Diversity and Inclusion Committee, whether it's the Community-Based Infrastructure Committee, whether it's the S4 Committee, to see all of those individuals in the room, smiling and cheering, and to have individuals walk up to me afterwards and give me words of affirmation. That to me, that was a really, really good moment, and it was a really good night. So very proud of that.
Well, officially, congratulations. But I saw all the postings, and I was trying hard. I was going to make you laugh on some posts, but I said, no, not soon, not soon. It's too soon. Let's let it settle in, and all the kudos come down, and then I'll try to think of something to make you laugh. But
Oh man, I wish we would have did it, because we wouldn't be us, right, if we weren't laughing. Come on, man.
oh, yes, no, that's one thing I love about you is your sense of humor, like dealing with all of the education. I'll just say stuff, right? It just you gotta have an and it brings me to that next point. Have a little fun. Do you remember when we were at Prince George County and Sean and Jason, shout out to them, we're talking a little bit about the urgency, and then you kind of launched into a little bit of a speech about how ready they have to be in terms of their team. That was the best speech I had heard in a long time, told to educators.
Well, and I think the difference was, and especially living here, I know what jurisdictions are kind of doing what, right? Who has what consultants, whether it's NGAC, Brailsford and Dunleavy, McKissick and McKissick, who's doing what and who has what on their teams. And it was a little bit different for PGCPS. They did not. And I am so serious.
Can you recreate that? Can you recreate it? Pretend I'm Jason.
Yeah, what I said to Jason, like, when I first came on board, and I was like, where's your owner's rep? Like, no, this is not going to happen, without you having an owner's rep. Like, Jason, you are not a construction person, like you are not a construction, professional. You cannot do this by yourself. Like, where is your owner's rep? And he took it to heart, and he was like, what, I got to get an owner's rep. I kept saying it. I put it in my reports to my, to those that I report up to, our steering committee. And I was like, Prince George's County does not have an owner's rep. This is a problem. Like, we've got to get this in place. And he did. He moved really quick, and he put one in place. But the urgency, oh my goodness, that to me, I was like, how is this even happening without that, being in place? And a jurisdiction does have to be ready.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. But that was a key message, and a point that I have failed to make or include in other discussions about the level of urgency is different with this type of procurement, and but I loved it because that sometimes can be we can get in our own way. I'll just say it like that, right? But no, but Jason is obviously very talented young man, but I would have been the same way. I'd have been like, what do you mean I need to own this? What are we talking about? Like, owning what? What are they going to own? I thought we said it was our schools. They can't own the schools. Like, I don't think that's going to fly. Like, that would have been me sitting there, because you work in schools and you get used to the natural way of doing things. So, but I love the story because it was great, like eye-opening moment that, we've all had on the school side of things. So.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Got to be real. Got to be honest. There are some individuals, in school systems that, don't always understand how honest we have to be. But I can tell you, as one who's, been in construction management for a number of years now, I definitely believe in being honest, sometimes probably too honest, and sometimes I have to shut it off if I'm not talking to somebody who's on the construction side. But the fact is that, we are who we are, and we're good at what we do because we are honest and we share that information. And with Jason, I know Jason appreciates this. There's been plenty of times when I've said to him, off the record, hey, you,
Get, yeah, let's get it together.
like, just whatever, like, look, that's not gonna work, just whatever else, and or just, putting my owner's rep hat on and literally saying, hey,
Sure.
Jason, I know you want to fight for this, but I don't know if that's, I don't know about that, like, let's really talk about this. So anyway, we've got to be the best that we could be.
What do you do? What do you do for fun?
Oh man. So fun, golf. Not now because it's too cold. But golf is one thing that I definitely enjoy. I didn't get out much this year. Unfortunately, my counterparts that golf with me, they have some nicknames for me because I didn't get out with them,
Mhm.
unfortunately. But that is one thing that I truly do enjoy. And then I also too do enjoy sewing. And I'm involved in a couple of community organizations. So I love the arts, and I am a creative myself. And so I do love working with children in the arts.
Well, good. What, favorite movie?
Oh man. Oh, let's see. One of my favorite movies, I'm like, one that just comes off the top of my head is probably Harlem Nights. There's many, but Harlem Nights
I
is one
love
of
Harlem Nights.
Harlem Nights is probably one of the top. Sits at the top of my list. There's a few others.
Well, I was going to ask you to do a little bit from pick a couple of quotes, but it's probably not safe to pick from that. But oh, I love Harlem. I see such a big Red Fox
Yeah,
fan. Like I just love.
yeah,
Oh God, that's a great movie. Um,
absolutely.
okay, last one, and I'll let you go. What's next? What's next for Brandey?
Well, we'll see. We're continuing to, obviously, with Fengate saying with Fengate, and we'll see what happens. We're looking at, more projects that are coming online. We're trying to see what projects are going to come online. I think what's next for me is, just making sure that, more jurisdictions know, working with, AI, and individuals like yourself, who I love working with, to make sure that we educate these jurisdictions out here. And I think it's more so. I think a road show is probably what's next, more so than anything else, to be out here in front of these various jurisdictions and telling the story of PGCPS, telling the story of the benefit of P3, not just in schools, but also to in any type of social infrastructure, because we know that this is so very new here to the United States. I think that that's really what's next for me.
Well, awesome. Well, I would love to be a part of any road show as long as my folks that answer are good with that. They've
Yeah.
given me a lot of reign to come and learn and be a part of things. So I truly appreciate that. Well,
Well, we'll just say this: Tom, give Rick what he needs. Okay, that's it.
there you go. You heard it here first. Tom Ness, you heard it here. Any final shout outs before we go? Because I know I've kept you longer than I tried to, but anybody you want to shout out before we go?
Would just like to shout out, all of those that voted for me, definitely for the P3 awards. I'm not going to call names, but I do know who all of you are. And so many of you who I respect, who I give the utmost respect to. So thank you so much. Thank you to my team at, and my friends and my work colleagues at Fingate Asset Management who nominated me. I definitely will tell you that I cried a lot when I got that nomination. So thank you so very much. So that's the shout outs that I have. I'm getting teary eyed now. So anyway, I'm such a sap when it comes to that stuff. I get very emotional, but thank you all so much for selecting me and thinking so much of me. And Rick, thank you for asking me to do this.
No, thank you for taking some time. I really wanted to hear the story behind the story, right? Because I've really been blown away by you. I'm not saying that because I mean, we don't have to even air this part. I'm telling you that because I really have been blown away by you and your ability to navigate very different systems, right?
Mhm.
And help pull it together. And that's amazing. And it's definitely something education could use right about now. So
Right.
more thanks to you for helping start this path for procurement because it's a tough time in education. So we need all the help we can get.
It is. Well, anything I can do, I'm here to help.
Brandey, if there's an organization or a municipality or anyone that wants to find out more about P3 social infrastructure, is there somewhere they can go to learn?
Absolutely, absolutely. One can definitely visit the AIAI's website, and that'll actually be in the link here. You guys can see that there. But AIAI is the Association for the Improvement of Infrastructure. We are the P3 people. And so, for those that are very interested in finding out more information, I encourage you to reach out to that website and reach out to the AIAI team and find out how you can receive more information about P3s and the delivery method.
Well, thanks for joining me today.
All right. Thanks, sir. We'll talk to you soon.
All right.
Produced by Podcast Architects.